You're listening to the Disruptive Franchise Podcast with Stacey, the podcast that celebrates innovation in franchising and peeks behind the curtain of failure, success, and the future of the franchise industry. This week, we are talking all about AI, automation, and how you can get ahead in your business with my special guest, Matt Harmsworth. Hi, Matt.
Hello. Thanks for having me on, Stacey.
Pleasure. Matt is founder of AI or Die and Loki, and you specialise in AI and adoption without the nonsense, don't you, Matt?
I try. There's a lot of nonsense out there, Stacey, so I do try.
We're going to get into some of that nonsense in a minute, for sure. Tell us why you do what you do, first of all.
Well, it's a massively long story, so I'll try and keep it brief because obviously nobody's really that interested in me. They're just listening to this to find out what the next tips and tricks are. But basically, I've scaled and grown a number of businesses over the years, starting as a tree surgeon and then did some Hollywood drone pilot stuff for about 5 to 6 years. And while I was scaling and growing my environmental consultancy, I was like, how can I remove myself as the bottleneck from this business, spend more time with my family and really sort of accelerate the growth of that business? And I had a number of good mentors that helped me on that journey. And one of them really gave me a sort of an insight into what AI could do in the very early days, because he was a very strategic thinker. And then I've basically gone away and put my own twist on it. And I'm happy to be honest about that. I'm like, how can I fit this into a 7-figure business that's heading towards 8 figures? How can I remove myself from this business? So what I did was I started to think about building an AI operating system into that business, basically an AI layer that sat over the top of or the business, that the staff didn't necessarily know that they were interacting with AI. They were just following processes and procedures, and it was able to remove myself as the bottleneck. And I mean, what really accelerated it, and this will probably resonate with some of your listeners, what really accelerated it was the fact that there was a baby on the way. So I had to remove myself from the day-to-day really, really quickly so that they didn't keep coming to me. They just went to the system.
Yeah, I think that will resonate with a lot of people that listen to this, for sure. In terms of so for anybody listening, that sounds, I think, equally amazing and terrifying, because I think what hits me immediately is the overwhelm. Obviously, you've done an awful lot of learning there. You've implemented a huge amount of stuff. So what's your advice, first of all, for anyone who just listens to that and went, I really want that, but that feels a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people don't know where to start. And I saw this in the drone space a number of years ago, and it was like, drones are going to solve everybody's problems. We're going to be able to use them for this, this, and this. And it started to be presented to business owners as if it was a sector or an industry of its own, and it isn't really. It's just another tool in the toolbox, and that's how you need to view AI. Really, it's just another tool in the toolbox. And the phrase that I always come back to is like a digital employee. So depending on the size of your business, and it is relevant for all businesses, what you really need to consider is, what are the roles within this business that perhaps I need to bring in? I can maybe delay that hiring. And I'm not saying we should use AI to replace people at all. I'm just saying that what we should do is we should try and use it, robustly in a human-like way with love. So you should use AI to free up your people to do the best work. So if your audiences, if they've got team members, have a look at what they're doing day to day, look at their time tracking, and have a think about what tools that you could give them to make their lives a little bit easier. Or perhaps you're a little bit earlier in your business journey and you need some help and support with things like operation and finance and marketing decisions and things like that. If you give the AI a lot of context, and I know we've spoken about this offline and we probably will again, but AI loves context. It cannot give you, it's regurgitating information it knows, and it can't help you intelligently unless you give it context on you and your business. So one of the first ways that you can start with this is choosing a large language model to interact with, whether that's Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever it might be. We've all got our favorites. Everybody asks me what's the best, and I sort of challenge them on that and say they're all much for muchness, actually. But what you really need to do is learn one platform and double down on one platform and put your information into one platform. So concentrate initially on not trying to solve problems, but tracking your time, finding out what the time sucks are, and then actually diarising some time to learn one of these AI platforms and to see how you can use it at founder level. I would never give staff direct access to large language models because there's lots of business reputational risks there. So start with time tracking, find out where the bottlenecks are in the business, find out what the problems are, and then fix them at scale. You get a lot of emotion. There's a lot of emotion if you've got staff and you start talking about AI and busy work. There's a lot of emotion. Everybody says, I'm even too busy to do time tracking. And, to get them to buy into the process, you really have to sell it as you're trying to make their lives a little bit easier and make it a nice place to work, get them to buy into the vision and the direction that you're taking the company.
Really like that. I think we've become so ingrained with everything has to be hard that the thought of AI coming in and making it easier, our nervous system has suddenly become very scary when actually we should be celebrating, going, yes, like things are going to get easier. But we have this real notion of it's not hard, it's not worth doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think probably it's dropping away now, but there were a lot of purveyors of the kind of the hustle culture. And, if you're not getting up at 5 a.m. and reading Atomic Habits and, eating a protein bar and 6 steaks and then going for a run and walking the dogs and posting a video of yourself doing it on Instagram, taking in the sunshine and contemplation. I shouldn't say contemplation coffee because I did just that on my Instagram the other morning, but that's because it was a quiet moment. But we're told all this, and then we're told you need to work like a Trojan all day, and then at the end of the day you've got to be super present for your family, otherwise your relationship will fall apart and your children will hate you. How are you supposed to do all that as a human? We've only all got so many hours in the day. And actually, I think no matter what stage you are in your business journey, what you should be starting to think about is, how can I get the business to kind of run on autopilot? And the interactions with humans are the really valuable points. So we were working together at the weekend. I was lucky enough to come and speak on one of your panels, which was fantastic. And those kind of in-person events and that people-to-people contact point is going to become so valuable, I think. But yeah, this whole hustle till you die, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. What you really need to think about as we stray into business consultancy really is the who, not the how. And what I mean by that is you need to find the right people to do things for you in your business as the founder, not try and do it all yourself. There's no brownie points. There's no brownie points in that. It just now happens that we've got the opportunity to have some digital employees in certain elements of the business, essentially.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring up something that happened at the weekend, actually. So at the Disruptive Franchise Awards, we asked no, it's good. You asked the audience, everyone in the room, to put their hands up if they were paying for an AI at the moment, if they were paying for the premium or any of the commercial sides of these massive language models. And there was not many hands that went up, which I'm guessing is probably quite common.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of speaking from stage, and it's my sort of signature thing at the moment. It will die away soon, I'm sure, but yeah, basically I ask people to put their hands up if they're using ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever at the moment. And probably in the audiences that we're in, because it is a business community, we are entrepreneurs, we're looking forwards into the future, most of 80 to 100% sometimes of the hands will go up. And then if you ask them to keep their hand up if they're actually paying, they'll put their hand down. And you think, my goodness, we're in this situation where we've been handed something that is far more powerful if you pay for it. Forgetting about the capitalism side of things, it's essentially dirt cheap and it gives you enormous power. And still, as humans who are inherently lazy, is one of my key sayings, humans are inherently lazy. Give them an easy route and they will take that easy route. And where this all pans to eventually is that, OpenAI at the moment, one of the big boys, if not the biggest, they've got approaching 1 billion users worldwide now. And I think it's only like 5 to 6% are actually paying. And some of those are only on the really low plan. So those of us that are in the AI space, it can feel like it's everywhere. The online, the coaching world, the online entrepreneur, everybody's talking about, even people that were anti-AI and are now sort of positioning themselves as AI experts, or there's an AI element to their program. So they're starting to see the shift. And I think it's because they feel like it's everywhere. But most people have absolutely no idea what the capabilities are, And one of the big things that we do, particularly in the franchise space, is we've helped a number of both franchisees and franchisors with AI voice. I mean, that's a huge one at the moment, installing both inbound and outbound voice agents to answer the phone. Because, if you're running, I don't know, a Subway, and they might not get many phone calls, but if somebody's head is under the counter, or they're making sandwiches or something, who's answering the phone? And the same goes for hairdressers and plumbers and retail and almost every business at the moment. So we've seen a huge uplift in there.
Yeah, it makes sense as well, doesn't it? And equally, like for me as a small business owner, I don't really love answering the phone, if I'm really
No.
honest with you, because I'm busy doing something and it's going to take me out of my thing and I'm going to get caught off guard. And, like it's the interruption, isn't it? We've almost programmed ourselves not to take phone. And
Well,
it's all,
you've just stumbled on something there, and all the research goes to show that if an employee or yourself is distracted, if you're removed from that flow state of doing that deep piece of work, takes you, I think it's either 23 or 27 minutes to get back on task. Well, if that phone's ringing 3 to 4 times through the day, then that's a huge distraction in terms of productivity. And the same goes if you've got staff, if they're being distracted as well.
yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Matt, is like one of the bigger barriers for people? So we talked about obviously like people aren't paying for it, and really we should be. I mean, imagine having a whole digital employer that costs you £20 a month. It's ludicrous that we don't pay for it. And I know there's other payment plans, but even just that level is a barrier for people. I personally thought for quite a long time, I don't feel like this now, but like there's some kind of secret magical thing that I'm missing. It can't just be as easy as like get on ChatGPT or get on Claude and use it properly. Like there must be some magical, mystical layer. Like what am I missing? So what do you think is the biggest barrier for small businesses in that context?
I think there's a couple of things, Stacey. I think the first thing is they're worried about the effect it will have on their business, and I think also, we've had the Hormozes and the Gary Vaynerchuks of this world telling us that we must be producing a massive amount of content and poking it out there every day. And the problem is with that is that people, they judge themselves by the people that are a lot further ahead of them in their entrepreneurial journey. And I think as a result of that, when ChatGPT first came out, the very first version 3.0, there were versions before that, but they weren't generally accessible in the way that we see it with the chat interface. People jumped on it for content creation. And it was very, very powerful because it could go away, it could do the research, it could produce that content very, very quickly. And we've seen the internet flooded with mediocre content, and you can spot it a mile off. Sentences that start like "and." I mean, it was a long time ago that I went to school, but I was told straight away, you don't start a sentence with "and." There's not a comma after "and." M dashes people have generally, which was a giveaway, as was emojis, as was bullet pointed lists from ChatGPT. I think people have worked out how to get that out, but there's other clues in there. And as soon as I see that, I know that that person is using a large language model with intelligence, but what they haven't done is spent the time to set it up properly. So I don't think it's necessarily that you're missing anything. I think there's an educational piece there. People are lazy. They don't want to onboard ChatGPT. If you brought an employee into your business and you said, your job's to answer the phone, there's the phone, and the first time the phone rings, they go, "Hello." They're not even going to know how you want that phone answered, what their role is, what the frequently asked questions are, etc., etc. You have to give it context. And there are ways of doing that. A lot of your listeners are probably familiar with, setting up projects and custom GPTs and things like that. Well, there is another level above that, even, by setting up in Claude, which is one of my personal favorites at the moment, is setting up various skills. If you do something once and it works really well, just tell Claude to set it up as a skill. And then you can use that process over and over and over again. And there are people out there selling software that they've vibe coded to help you with business operations, content production, whatever it might be, that literally you could work it out yourself in about 10 minutes. And all you have to do is ask Claude or ChatGPT to turn it into a skill afterwards. And then it's repeatable. You're just training an employee. And I think if people put that effort into the training phase, they'll probably get an awful lot more out of it. And then just pay for it. because it is better if you pay for it as well. And
Yeah.
you're not sharing your data with everyone else in your sector then as well. You're not training Jimmy down the road that also does exactly the same thing as you.
One of the most horrifying things that we see in franchise at the moment is that a prospective franchisee gets like the contract to read, and rather than go to the franchise solicitor because that costs money, they put
Yeah.
it into ChatGPT. And of course, that is intellectual property that then shared. It's one of those things you're just like, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Lack of
Yeah.
education. I also think as well, it's important to interject that people are going to come at me for this, I'm sure, but franchisors, I think, also have a bit of a duty of care to help upskill their franchisees with this as well. Like if you don't, a lot of franchisors were very much like, don't use AI. I don't think that's realistic. I think what we've got to do is have a really clear policy in the operations manual of if you don't want them using AI for content creation, then you can put that in, or creating images or labeling correctly. There's a lot of copyright issues, isn't there, around AI? But I think what all smart franchisors should be doing at this point, and we did it at Daisy First Aid, is bring somebody in to actually upskill the workforce. So, all right, franchisees are not employees, we're not responsible for them. But if you want your brand to be efficient, if you want your franchisees to be getting the most out of a really powerful tool, then go educate them on it in the same way that you would social media when media was kind of emerging, in the same way that you would with any kind of booking system that you implement. Like, let's upskill them in AI as well.
Yeah, I think the smart move there, if you're the franchisor, I think what you should be doing is basically building your own operating system for that business. I mean, the franchise model that's always spoken about a lot is, the McDonald's, isn't it? The fast food. Why is McDonald's so successful? Forgetting about the fact it's a property company, but it's the fact that they hand you a manual that literally tells everybody in that business how to do everything. Imagine if you had a digital version of that that's powered by AI as well, you can vibe code your own software very, very quickly, whether it's a chain of day nurseries or restaurants or whatever. You can build your own software very, very quickly. You can get a professional developer to polish it afterwards, but then you're giving your franchisees access to AI tools, you're upskilling them, you're making their lives easier. But what you're not doing is encouraging them to go off and use ChatGPT, and then next week Claude's better and you've invested all that time and energy into them. What you really want to do is create some form of software, which I would imagine probably makes the whole proposition much more valuable as well. Imagine you take on a franchise for a day nursery or something like that, and all the onboarding manuals and everything for the staff are digital, and there's a digital avatar of telling them what to do and walking them through it and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be much more powerful, and they're going to be up and running an awful lot quicker.
Absolutely. I'm going to give a shout out to Katie Bullen at this point, an Active Marketing franchise group, because they have done exactly that. She has created and invested in essentially an AI layer to help the franchisees to write proposals and things like that. But it's all theirs. I think they call it Cora. And that is really whether they're a marketing franchise, so they are, at the forefront of that. But even if you're a first aid franchise or a nursery chain or, food and beverage, like, you're absolutely right. I think that's important. We're going to shift it into the front end customer now as well, I think, because from a franchisor point of view, lead gen, I want to ask you your thoughts on AI lead gen. But one of the things that I really have very clearly in my head and conversations I'm having with my franchisor clients at the moment is that we have these marketing brochures that we want people to download. These have got to go on to chat, haven't they? You've got to be able to chat and whether that's voice or bot activated or whatever the mechanism is, rather than just 2000 style, give them a PDF. Why are we not making that more interactive and therefore more accessible, right?
Yeah, I mean, people will not interact with lead generation material in the way they used to. And you're certainly, I think, and it is controversial because a lot of people say it still works. I think it works depending on your niche. But if somebody doesn't really know anything about what they're inquiring about, they're probably not going to give you their details, because it's lead generation for us. And I think most people are savvy of that now. They're like, if I click this button or I fill in this form, I'm going to get dropped into someone's funnel and I'm going to get absolutely annihilated. The better way, and as business owners, it's something we all need to think about. The better way is just to use AI at the front end to start conversations, and then a human takes that over, whether that is a WhatsApp channel or something like that, or whether it's something a little bit more sophisticated. I mean, we build bespoke voice agents and standard sort of text agents for people, and the text agent is just basically a duplication of the voice agent with some fairly clever kind of changes to it, but that is fully interactive like a human. So if somebody does take on a PDF and they're looking through it and they've got questions about that business, they've got to fill in a form, send an email, do something to have any more questions. Whereas if there's an avatar, a chatbot, whatever you want to call it, if there's something that they can interact with, they could potentially get all of their questions answered very, very quickly. And the smart way to do that is to have it on a hidden page of your website. Essentially, I would never put anything like that on the front end, because you'll just get spammed to death and people will be having all sorts of ridiculous conversations. But if you have it on a hidden page, so once you've qualified people, you give them access to it. So that may be that in your Facebook ads or whatever, like it's have a chat with Matt Bot. He'll talk to you about AI and how you can use AI within your business. That's going to be of interest to somebody. If it is download our free 20-page PDF on how to use AI in your business, I'm like, no thanks. I could go and search on YouTube, and there'll be a million videos. So I think the way people are consuming things is different. But the real smart move, I think, is to actually go back a step further and start to think about, if you are advertising to get customers in the door, whether that's you're trying to sell franchises to somebody, or whether it's the franchisee themselves and they're trying to sell a product or a service, is that how is your business going to be visible when we're moving towards an era of AI search? How are they going to show up? I mean, we could deep dive on that if you want to, but is how do they get their businesses to show up on AI, which works on authority? And is there somebody there when that person reaches out and inquires? Because, we are moving into an era of agentic search. People are searching for products and services on their phone, using their voice quite often. I know lots of people now that will walk their dogs in the morning and will be, asking their phone questions about things, and it's recommending businesses and products and services. When that AI agent connects that human with the phone to that business, is there someone there to answer the phone, answer that question, whether it's a chatbot or voice or whatever? So I think we can, if we're not careful, we try and use AI to solve and to fix traditional systems and processes, whereas actually we need to zoom out and go, where is this going? Where is this going? Everybody interacts with their phone on a day-to-day basis, whether it's Android or Apple, right? And whether it's Android or Apple, Gemini is going to power that. Amazon is moving towards natural voice with Alexa now as well. All the big boys are starting to bet on voice. That's the direction it's going. And people are going to be interacting and searching for products and services with their voice. And as business owners, we need to know, how do we get recommended?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think the key thing in there as well is that, like, what I want to pull out of there is, you said we're trying to solve traditional problems rather than look to the future. And we know that already. It was quite telling at the awards actually at the weekend, where people are like, oh, it's coming. And we all stood on stage and went, no, it's here. So now we have to look at not what's just here now, but also what's coming next, not just that thing that we were trying to fix. What advice would you give to businesses in terms of being able to zoom out like that and look at that? Like, are there different sources they should be kind of consuming themselves? Like, how do you keep on top of all of that? Because again, it's that overwhelm, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be overwhelming, and running a business is overwhelming at the best of times. I just think as business owners, we need to sprinkle the AI fairy dust on our businesses. We need to keep polishing it and cuddling it, using AI as best we possibly can do. And as I say, we go right back to the start. AI is just another tool in the toolbox. So it can assist operations, it can assist sales, it can assist marketing, it can assist finance, it can assist all of those business functions. And it doesn't matter what the size of your business is, that applies right the way across the board. So I think all business owners need to zoom out. They need to look at their business as it sits at the moment and go, where are the time sucks? What are my staff drowning in? What am I drowning in? How can I make my life easier? Because what you also have to think is this is going to be the new norm. I mean, imagine when email came in and you were sat there writing 10 letters a day. I remember my father, who's 84, voice noting into a dictaphone, and those tapes were then given to the secretary, and she typed them up and made it sound, and then posted them out. An email came along and we were like, whoa, this is cool. And now email's the most overwhelming thing in the world ever. Hardly anybody is using it as it was intended, and we're all sort of moving towards WhatsApp. And it's just, it's a constant journey. You could argue we've gone full circle with that voice note example, but there we go. So I know you're pushing for a specific, but there isn't anything really. It's just another tool in the toolbox, and it's bespoke to absolutely every business. I think if people want to upskill, and I want to give value rather than a sale, but I mean, I have a very low level membership thing called AI Flight Club, and I've got all sorts of businesses in there, from 8-figure businesses right the way down to early 6-figure businesses. And we're just constantly feeding information into them. We have a weekly a weekly Q&A and a monthly webinar on what's hot and what's not. I don't think you can upskill yourself in AI by going on a course. There's very few courses out there, reason being it's out of date 6 weeks after it's written. So I think you just have to have an awareness of what the art of the possible is, and a deep understanding of your business and what you can possibly do in your business to accelerate it and move it forwards. All the problems that we're going to experience moving into the future are going to be exactly the same. It's just AI is going to speed up solving them. It's like, where are our leads coming from? How can we get them as cheaply as possible? Where can we find staff? Are the staff actually doing the job we employed them to do? All of that sort of stuff is not going to go away, I don't think, regardless of the size of the business. It's going to be very disruptive. It's going to be very disruptive to a lot of sectors, but the problems are going to stay the same. We're just going to be able to solve them a lot quicker.
One thing I really liked that you said on stage at the weekend as well was that human behaviours, human psychology isn't going to change.
No, 100%.
Humans aren't going to stay the same. It's just the tools that we then have at our disposal to help us get what we need, right?
Yeah. I mean, you think digital marketing, one of the absolute gods of digital marketing was Dan Kennedy, and the modern version of that is Alex Hormozy and Gary Vaynerchuk and all that. Where do you think those guys, you trace it back, it all goes back to the same people, the Zig Ziglars of this world, etc., etc. It's the same stuff being regurgitated over 30 years later. And what works? If you took one of Dan Kennedy's adverts that he used to write in a newspaper 40 years ago and you turn that into digital copy, still going to work, because it's humans selling to humans, and that stuff will still work. And actually, people are going to crave that more and more and more. This is not a dig at him, because I've got a massive amount of respect for him. But I was looking at Daniel Priestley, one of the pieces of software he's invested in, Videnary, or however you pronounce it. I was looking at that, and their whole sales pitch was, we will help you deliver really, really polished content. Awesome. But people don't want really, really polished content. They want me in the back of my office with the sound going up and down and all over the place, and a bit down and dirty, because it means I'm actually here. I'm actually here. I'm actually interacting, with you. And I think that's what people are going to move towards. That they're going to crave that. I think that polishedness is almost going to become a red alert for people.
Completely agree with that. I did a whole episode on it actually a little while back, and all of the content from that episode went crazy, because exactly what you said, we want real people. We don't want to be following the script and distracted or given AI nonsense. And
well, look at all the big people in our sector. Look at Lisa Johnson, look at Nikki James, etc., etc., etc. All of them are all banging on about personal brand and how important personal brand is. And it is, when we think of Virgin, we think of Richard Branson. Go and check out his Instagram. He's got 3.5 million followers. Virgin's got 500. People want a figure. They want to see that personal brand before they give you money, before they invest into it. This is the reason I go on podcasts and I stand on stages, etc., 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 etc. If I hid behind a digital funnel on Facebook, it just wouldn't work. Nobody would move towards us because they don't trust you.
Yeah, completely agree. I think the sense of trust almost comes from that actual, we've come really full circle in that, yeah, we trust everything, we trust nothing, we trust everything. Now we really don't trust anything online. We have to be able to see the person. And I think to be able to see the flaws and, the chaos in the background, it just makes you far more relatable. Completely.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we spend, in one of my businesses, we spend an awful lot of money on paid advertising, and anything that we do to reduce skepticism and improve human to human interaction. And there is AI in that process, but it's towards the back of the process. It's heavily loaded with humans at the front. And every time we make a change to make it more human, from a bloke that runs an AI consultancy and works with, £100 million businesses all over the world, it's funny that, that you would think that everything that I did was AI. Well, it's not. It's not. You don't want it up there in the front. Look at us. Look what we're doing with AI, because that will turn a lot of people off.
Yeah, completely agree. Matt, I've loved chatting to you. I think there's so many gems in there for people to take away. How do people find you?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram. Just search for Matt Harmsworth. There's not very many of us out there with that surname. Or you can go to my website, which is matt-harmsworth.com. And on there, you can get access to Flight Club and my newsletter and all the freebie stuff that it adds real value.
Amazing. We'll put those into the show notes. Matt, thank you so much. That's it for this week.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Stacey.
See ya. This episode was brought to you by Impact Franchising, the agency who offer predictable franchise growth done for you. If you have loved what you've heard, please go and help other people find it by hitting the subscribe button and liking the episode. See you on the next one.